All right, folks. So hopefully everyone had a fantastic 4th of July. This is our first episode recording since, and we're going to start off by telling you the topics we're covering today in the world of crime. And the first thing we are going to discuss today, the absolute sad, tragic, unimaginable story that has unfolded in Texas with the flooding along the Guadalupe River. Now, you might be wondering, where is the crime in that? And while the occurrence itself was no one's fault per se, there was definitely some failures there as it relates to advance notice that may have helped save some lives. So we're going to discuss that, give our opinions on it. We're also covering several, actually, cases out of Georgia today, one involving the Gulf Coast Stapletons, a very popular TikTok couple, and the likely canceling of this couple due to not only Josh Stapleton's recent guilty plea to child sex exploitation charges, but also his wife Brittany's response to that plea. And also in Georgia, a 17-year-old girl is charged with the murder of her mother and her stepfather after months of pleading with TikTok creators to help find the killer. In Texas, 10 people have been charged in an ambush at an ICE detention center. We're going to discuss that, as well as the violence rising overall against ICE agents throughout the country. Kaylee Goncalves' family is giving $85,000 in donations back to GoFundMe. We're going to tell you why that is. A woman in Florida stabbed a man to death and left a note on his chest with the word pedo for police to find. Is she justified? We're going to talk about that. An Arizona man is in deep trouble after he is charged with kidnapping, raping, and locking a woman up for weeks inside of a shed. We're going to talk about that. A woman's found dead after going paddleboarding, and this occurred in Maine. Her death was ruled as a homicide, and people are fearful in that state. We're going to tell you about that. A Pennsylvania man beheaded his father live on YouTube, and he had his day in court. This is not only a tragic, but very bizarre story that we're going to be discussing. So with that, welcome to CrimeWire Weekly. I'm Jim Chapman.
And I'm Kaylee Jennings.
Kelly, we got a lot of news to cover today.
I'm talking about a lot.
A long way to go and a short time to get there.
I know, and all over the place, too. I'm seeing states that we don't normally have a lot to go out of, too.
Yeah, Maine of all places. I didn't think crime occurred in Maine.
I didn't either. I thought it was just the best people just do everything right.
Yeah.
In Maine.
Yeah, well, and it's so small, but they got their share of crime, I guess, just like everywhere else in the world. But we're going to start this one off today in Texas. And let me tell you, tragedy doesn't do it justice. Horrific doesn't do it justice. The search for more than 170 people still missing after flash floods has devastated central Texas. This is stretched into, as of this recording, its 7th day, and the death toll just continues to rise. At least 120 people are confirmed dead, according to local law enforcement. Ongoing search operations are still underway to find anyone lost in the debris after the catastrophic weekend storm, which caused the Guadalupe River to swell rapidly and near unprecedented levels. There are 161 people known to be missing in Kerr County alone. All of this is located in what's known as the flood-prone Texas Hill Country, west of Austin, the state capital, of course, of Texas. 10 others are missing in other parts of the state. President Trump has signed a federal disaster declaration, and what that does is it allows FEMA to be deployed, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Without federal help, obviously, this would be even more of a mess than it is currently. And what really makes this difficult in the realm of recovery of victims, etc., is that ongoing storms are rolling through daily. So it just hampers a lot of the efforts to rescue people. A large majority of the flooding deaths have occurred in Kerr County, where 95 of those people died. That one county. Camp Mystic, of course, we've all heard about that. A girls' summer camp. It has cabins along the river. It's in a rural part of Kerr County. 27 campers and counselors have been confirmed dead, and surviving campers describe it as catastrophic. The flooding, some survivors said they woke up and water was rushing through the windows. Crews continue to search for 5 missing campers as of this recording and 1 counselor. 1 child not associated with the camp is also missing. Now, Friday of last week was the last time a missing person was found alive in Kerr County. But search crews continue to survey miles of the Guadalupe River in hopes of locating others lost in that flood. The river runs for approximately 230 miles through a region that sits between Austin and San Antonio, starts in Kerr County, and then ends along the Gulf Coast. Now, the nickname for this area is Flash Flood Alley because the terrain makes it vulnerable to inundation. And the reason for that is it's a sealed country. It doesn't have soil like we have here in Louisiana where the water drains into the soil and it serves as kind of a sponge. This is rock underneath this. There's not a whole lot of dirt. It's like mountainside. So water doesn't drain, it doesn't soak into the ground. It just kind of runs off as it hits the ground.
So, first of all, I'm not in any way comparing the loss of life to what we experienced in 2016. So in 2016, we had what we locally refer to as the Great Flood, and all of us were impacted by this. I think it was like 92% of our parish was wiped out, and we understand as far as the loss of property, okay, which does not equate to the loss of life that we're about to discuss. But to see everyone, y'all, not a few people, not just a roadway, not just some people, everyone's possessions stacked what felt like miles high all the way down the road, every road you went down. We understand how that feels here. But these children and these adults that lost their lives in a horrific way, I was seeing some people ask questions on social media, of course, about like, how come they couldn't get out of the way? Why didn't they, how could this happen? Listen to a guy, and I wanted to share this because it impacted me. And he said, this is how it happened. Because this was not a curated waterway that all of this water rushed through, meaning it was not smooth underneath this water. There were obstacles, and there were stop signs, and there were houses, and there were cars, and there were campers. So when the water rose, just because you're thinking you could tread this water, what happens is it creates that tumble roll underneath, that suction, plus you're slamming into things. You're getting stuck underwater because most people don't die in floodwaters. They die as a result of what's in the water. So, and being unable to get away from it. So then that just made it even more tragic to think of all the, and I know there's adults that we've lost, but these kids and the elderly, those tug at my heart. And to know that they were terrified and it was really just a free-for-all, it sounds like. When the water took them, you just did the best you could. Of
course, anytime you have a tragedy like this, you look at, wow, what could have been done better? Nobody's assigning fault here. This was nobody's fault. Nobody intentionally did this. But there were some things that occurred. As I read you in that article, this was known as Flash Flood Alley, basically. Yeah. And so this isn't the first time that this has happened. It's just the first time it's happened to this extent. This is one of the biggest ones, if not the biggest one. Definitely the biggest loss of life because of the fact that these campers happened to be camping at the time that this occurred. So the issue becomes what was missing? Why was there not more warning? And when you ask those questions, look, they've been debating for years getting sirens in that area because it is prone to flooding, and red tape kind of got in the way.
Well, and to add to that too, they use a system there, and I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's where basically the highest person on the stream would call downstream and alert those neighbors who would then call down and alert those neighbors. And they believe in that system and it's worked. But I saw that, I don't know if it was a council meeting or what it was, that they thought that it was too extravagant and that it would kind of ruin the culture of their area to put those sirens in. And so they shot it down.
It was a councilman, it was a councilman for that county. And it was an old timer. And it was a guy that, hey, we don't need all this stuff.
Right.
And then the issue became we can't afford all this stuff. Well, they're putting that stuff in now because the governor Texas said, we're going to pay for it and we're going to
Yeah.
put it in. Because one of the issues, and I don't know the expense of this stuff, but apparently it's not cheap. And one of the issues was we just don't have the money. We're not a rich county.
Yeah.
You know, this is in Dallas, Texas right here.
Yeah.
So we don't want to change the culture of our area and it becomes cityfied. You
And
know,
that's why-
people get to that age
That's
where
why
they
people
don't like that.
flock there too.
That's
because
why- that's
it
right.
is country. I'm gonna say country living, but it's laid back pace, and it's and people like that
It's
when they're
hill country.
vacationing. Yeah,
Sure. Had they had that, certainly there would have been more warning. But let me say this. When the river rises 26 feet in 45 minutes, I don't care how many sirens are going off,
Right.
you're going to have problems.
Yeah.
There's just not enough time. And this is the middle of the night. This isn't 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday, right? This is the middle of the night and you're asleep.
Yeah. It's instances like this too that are bringing out the best of people, but also the worst. And I'm not going to harp on that, but there are some people that have said some things that are you can't take back. Just I want to hug these strangers, and tell them, God, yeah, I can't fix it, but I want you to know how much people care. We care. All over the world, people care.
Yeah, they do. And look, I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people have stepped up. Of course, the Cajun Navy right here in this area is there now and working with agencies, rescuing people. They're going through cars that were flooded and have now stacked on top of each other where sadly they're finding bodies left and right
My niece is
inside these vehicles.
a teacher at my niece's school was one of the dead
Yeah.
that's been found. It's far reaching. And so I'm bowing my head. Maybe you can join in and we can find more miracles.
Amen.
And have this happen. All right, well, let's go to Georgia. A 17-year-old girl in Georgia has been arrested and charged on the suspicion that she murdered her own mother and stepfather. On Tuesday, July 8th, the Carroll County Sheriff's Office confirmed in a press conference that Sarah Grace Patrick voluntarily turned herself in for arrest in relation to the February 20th, 2025 murders of her mother, Kristen Brock, who is 41, and stepfather, James Brock, who is 45. A press release shared on Facebook said that the victims died of apparent gunshot wounds. The couple's bodies were discovered in their bedroom. Patrick was charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault. The press release cited mountains of physical and digital evidence and countless interviews as what led to the charges. From the very moment the 911 call was received, a relentless investigation began, one that would span months, consume thousands of hours, and require the full weight of local and federal law enforcement partnerships, according to the press release. Carroll County Sheriff's Office spokeswoman Ashley Hulsey addressed the case during a press conference, and she said the Sheriff's Office had charged Patrick as an adult, noting that they were still working to determine a motive. We don't know what goes through the mind of a child that wants to harm her parents, Hulsey said to the assembled press. Hulsey noted that it was possible others were involved with this case, and the press release stated that additional arrests are possible. Speaking to the press, she said that it was hard to tell if other family members had been involved in the crime or its cover-up. However, she added that they had been nothing but cooperative during the investigation. Now, Patrick's bio father was with her whenever she turned herself in for arrest for the very horrific and sad case, according to Hulsey. The teen is the one who called 911 after her 6-year-old sister discovered the victims' bodies. Hulsey referred to the young girl as the saddest victim in the case. A big takeaway from this story is a mother and a stepfather will never be able to raise their children, according to Hulsey. Police say that they have a mountain of digital evidence that points only to this 17-year-old girl.
Yeah, and the most shocking thing about this story was the fact that this girl, this 17-year-old girl who has now turned herself in for the murder of her mother and stepfather, was going on TikTok for the last 3 or 4 months, and she was making videos asking people to help her solve the case, acting like she was grieving on these TikToks for months. As a matter of fact, she was reaching out to high-profile true crime folks on TikTok and saying, hey, can you help me? Can we do like cold case type stuff or help find the killer things? And these people were feeling sorry for this girl. And the whole time it was a sham because it appears allegedly that she killed her own parents.
What drives somebody to do this without a mental defect is beyond me. You know what I'm saying? If you don't have a mental defect, all we can say is you're evil. I mean,
if you kill your parents, you got to have some sort of defect somewhere.
That's what I'm saying. And then to know that you did this knowing that a 6-year-old child would be the one to find the body. And I'm saying that because if the teen called 911, then she knew what they were walking into, and she had the 6-year-old obviously there.
100%.
This clearly sounds premeditated, and then to try to seek fame.
Yeah, and
Wow.
I did go check out that TikTok, and I mean, she's on there and she's, telling this story, and supposedly it heard people going into her house, and all this is a lie. And she's been lying for like 3 months about this.
Not cool.
All right, we're going to stay in Georgia, and one of the most trending stories there is right now out there on Google is the fact that a Georgia influencer apparently has been living a double life. Joshua Stapleton has been sentenced to prison for child pornography crimes. The Georgia native and social media influencer was sentenced to 20 years in prison. However, before we all get excited that finally someone who commits these kind of things got a stiff sentence, well, 15 of that was suspended for probation following his guilty plea in court. Yeah, sexual exploitation of children was his actually final charges times 20 counts. Now, Stapleton maintained a virtual presence as part of the Gulf Coast Stapletons with his wife, Brittany Moores Stapleton. They gained over nearly 100,000 followers through content such as workout videos, travel posts. They're living the perfect life, right? His online activity extended beyond his hometown in Georgia, where he previously owned a State Farm agency. Him and his wife were actually State Farm agents. Between 2018 and 2020, authorities reported that he downloaded images involving prepubescent children. This ain't, not that it's any better, but this isn't 16, 17-year-olds. This is prepubescent, 12 years or younger children in sexually abusive situations. Now, I'll leave it up to you to figure out what sexually abusive situations are, but it's not good. It's disgusting. The investigation began following a tip submitted through ICAC, Internet Crimes Against Children program, and was conducted by Bartow's law enforcement in coordination with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and U.S. Department of Homeland Security. The investigation's findings and ensuing legal proceedings placed Stapleton in the Bartow County Sheriff Jail, with his sentencing marked by non-negotiated plea deal. And just quickly, what a non-negotiated plea deal, y'all, is let's say you were trying to plea bargain. See, originally he had 40 counts. So he goes to the prosecutor and, hey, let's make a deal. And the prosecutor makes a deal, but he doesn't like the deal. And he says, okay, I'm going to roll the dice. I'm going to let the judge pick the deal. And the judge in this case picked the deal, cut that sentence from 40 counts to 20 counts, the charges rather, and he got the sentence I just read you. Now, since the news of this sentencing became public knowledge, reactions have been absolutely crazy all over TikTok, especially, where they had a big following. His wife actually came out with a video in response to this sentencing. And look, bad idea, and appeared to be defending this guy to an extent. Not only that, but admits that she knew about this even before she married him. These charges, they had no secret, she said. Wow.
Oh, wait, you think that helps you, lady? That didn't help you out to say we had no secrets?
When the police approached him, and the policeman actually asked him, so what are you doing with these pictures? He said he was masturbating to them. And he actually told the policeman he didn't realize it was illegal to do that.
Get out of here.
This is a State Farm agent. And y'all, if you saw, look, this guy, good looking guy.
Both of them are. The couple's
wife, very attractive. And that's what obviously the appeal to this case is, because it proves to everybody that sex offenders don't have a look. She's not a sex offender. She wasn't with him when he was doing this.
But she said she
knew. She knew about the charges. She obviously, I would assume, doesn't believe them.
But for her to have the audacity to then put your face on camera, where people who are, you're an influencer.
Yeah.
And then say, I knew about this. Okay, but he's a good man. The fuck he is. Leave kids alone. And sorry, I know I'm being aggressive here, but there's no excuse, and shame on you. Let's go back to Texas.
All right.
I gotta, but it ain't gonna get much better. All right. Federal prosecutors in Texas have charged 10 people with attempted murder following what they called an ambush of law enforcement late Friday outside an Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention facility. Authorities allege the suspects conspired to create a disturbance outside of the Prairieland Detention Center in Alvarado, which is located about 40 miles southwest of Dallas, in order to lure ICE personnel outside of the facility where they could shoot and kill them. A number of shots were fired, and the Alvarado police officer was shot in the neck. Acting U.S. Attorney Nancy Larson for the Northern District of Texas said each has been charged with 3 counts of attempted murder of a federal officer and 3 counts of discharging a firearm in relation to a crime of violence. If convicted, they each face a mandatory sentence of 10 years to life behind bars. An 11th suspect also faces up to 10 years in prison on charges of obstruction of justice and conspiracy for attempting to conceal and destroy evidence in connection with the attack. We want to tell everyone out there this will not be tolerated, Larson said. Those who use violence against law enforcement officers will be found, and they will be prosecuted with the toughest criminal statutes and penalties that we have available to us. The incident occurred shortly before 11 p.m. Central Time last Friday outside the Prairieland Detention Center. Larson alleges 10 to 12 people dressed in black, military-style clothing began shooting fireworks and vandalizing vehicles and graffitied the facility to draw the ICE personnel outside. When an Alvarado police officer arrived on scene, one of the suspects is alleged to have opened fire, wounding the unidentified responder in the neck. Another suspect shot between 20 and 30 rounds at unarmed corrections officers who exited the facility. The suspects fled the scene but were later arrested during traffic stops, Larson said, adding that they were found in possession of 12 sets of body armor, spray paint, and a flag that said, "Resist fascism, fight oligarchy," as well as flyers stating, "Fight ICE terror with class war," and "Free all political prisoners." Over the weekend, officers executing search warrants discovered masks, goggles, tactical gloves, a large load of weapons, and what Larson called insurrectionist material. Let's discuss this incident. It was a planned ambush with the intent to kill ICE corrections officers, she said. Make no mistake, this was not a so-called peaceful protest. It was indeed an ambush. No employees at the correction facility were injured. And the Johnson County Sheriff's Office has said the injured officer was flown to Harris Methodist Hospital in Fort Worth, where they were treated and released. Thoughts on that, Timothy?
Well, first of all, thank God that this officer was released and appears to be okay. Even after being shot, this is shit has got to stop and look, this ain't a political post or political comment right here, anything of that nature. This is bullshit.
Total. To
be ambushed like this. And if you saw the lineup of these guys, that did this
and gals,
it looks like some Opie Taylor, some bitches. It's just a total joke that they even think that this is going to have some sort of effect that would help their cause, whatever that is.
Right. And what kind of world are we living in? I even told my kids this recently. I said, what kind of world are we living in where people are willing to go attack people they don't know over people that they don't know?
That's a great point.
What in the world would make you, and these correctional officers are unarmed. What an ultimate act of cowardice.
These people are just doing their job, whatever it is. Right. If you don't agree with that, there are ways to handle that, and this certainly ain't the way to handle it. You can voice your opinion to your congressman or whoever.
Yeah, find somebody in power and talk to them.
Yeah, it's disgusting. These ICE agents are everyday people that are doing everything they can to protect borders. Many prayers to all the ICE agents out there that are doing the best they can.
Mad respect.
All right, we're going to go to Idaho. The family of Kaylee Goncalves, one of the 4 University of Idaho students murdered in 2022, says they want to return $85,000 raised through GoFundMe.
Hey everyone, CrimeWire Weekly has moved to its own new channel.
We hope you've enjoyed this preview. To continue listening, please follow the link referenced in the description of this podcast.
Or simply search CrimeWire Weekly wherever you're listening.
And don't forget to follow the show so you can be alerted when new episodes drop.
Thanks for listening.